virtually, given an extension recently made by the legislature and signed into law by the governor to allow us to continue to use this virtual platform. We appreciate, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner O'Brien.
Good afternoon, I'm here.
Commissioner Hill.
Present.
And Commissioner Skinner.
I'm here. Good afternoon.
Right, and so we're all set to proceed. This is public meeting of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, number 385. It is July 26th, and we're meeting at 2:30 p.m. I want to express my appreciation again for those who submitted written comments for connection with our public hearing that we just conducted earlier this afternoon on an application for horse racing. Written comments were submitted, and we had a few oral comments, and we always appreciate the public's input and their willingness to participate. So thank you again for that. We'll move right to minutes. We have several, and we're grateful for that effort on the part of legal's team and also our current secretary and our former secretary, Secretary Hill.
Bear with me as I get all my coordinates together here, Madam Chair.
No problem. And of course, I was thanking Commissioner O'Brien for her former input. So thank you.
She's been wonderful and quite a mentor in this. So thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. I'm actually going to move just one set of minutes. So I would move that the commission approve the minutes from June 2nd, 2022 that are included in the commissioner's packet, subject to any necessary corrections or typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Particularly relevant to today's earlier hearing. Any other questions or edits? All right, Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
And Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
Okay, and we have, I think, 5 other sets. Commissioner Hill, how would you like to proceed? Are you turning that over to Commissioner O'Brien?
I am.
Okay, thank you.
That's fine. I can do an omnibus motion if Madam Chair and Commissioner Hill, you're fine with that. I think we were the quorum on all of the others, and Commissioner Skinner was not present for these.
So she wasn't present for the other 5.
Correct.
Okay, and Commissioner Hill was present for all 5. In fact, I think September 21st was your first day.
That's right.
The 23rd, the 21st.
Yeah. So unless there are edits that either of you want to discuss now, I'm just going to do an omnibus.
Has everybody had the chance to review them? I mean, okay, great.
Yep.
Okay. So, Madam Chair, I would move the commission approve the minutes included in the packet for the following dates, subject to any necessary changes for typographical errors or other non-material matters, specifically the minutes for September 21st, 2021, September 23rd, 2021, October 21st of 21, December 21st of 21, and January 10th of 2022.
Second.
Any edits, questions? All right. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Same.
And I vote yes. So 3 yeses and 1 abstention. Okay. Before we go on, I'm noting that Commissioner Skinner was on by June 2nd. Commissioner Hill was on by September 21st, and we are elated that we have a 5th commissioner now that has been named and will be appointed next week to start with us, and that's Jordan Maynard. We are excited about welcoming him to our team, and I, as a chair of a commission, welcome a fulsome commission very much. So we're looking forward, and I know that we're going to, like all 5 of us have been new commissioners, and we're all going to be learning together and continuing to learn together and working together. So looking forward to probably our next meeting, I think will be August 3rd. And then Commissioner Maynard will be joining us for that agenda setting meeting. Moving on then to Dr. Lightbound. You had a big weekend.
Yes, it was a wonderful weekend. Nice, good thing that we did move it from Sunday. The weather yesterday was much nicer, and we still had a good crowd come out and some very good racing. Steve O'Toole's also on, so he may want to say a few words about it as well.
Right, Steve. Thank you, Steve, for joining us today. Thank you. I hope that you received my message as I emailed from afar.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, no, it was a great day. We're so glad to see Commissioner Hill and Commissioner O'Brien come out to join us. Commissioner Hill got one of the drivers made fun of his New England accent when he tried to pick on him for his Michigan accent, so that was fun. But really, it was really a trying week with keeping our eyes on the weather, and then when I got up on Monday morning after moving the day to Monday, and I saw the weather forecast, I thought maybe we had jumped out of the frying pan and into the fire with the storms that were predicted, and maybe even a tornado watch. So, but it was perfect. The racing gods were watching over us, I guess.
That's excellent. What were the final results?
Well, very interesting. In the mayor's race, it was won by the same connections that have won it the last 3 years. Jim King, the trainer, he had Chartonin win it back-to-back years, the first and second year, and then last year and this year, his mare Lion Sentinel won again. So he's won it 4 times. The driver Tim Chetrick has won that race 4 times. And in the Spirit of Mass Trot, Dexter Dunn, the driver, that was his 3rd consecutive win in that race for 2 different trainers. Manchego won it the last 2 years. And then yesterday, it was a Swedish horse that won yesterday. Elijah, I can't even say the name, but it was like Elijah, I win 2, I win it, or something like that. So it's very difficult. The first name is very difficult to say, but I win it is I won it, something like that. But it was on the cover of all of the Sun Chronicle, which gave us very good coverage throughout the last 2 weeks. The front cover of the sports page for the Sun Chronicle almost every day the last week, and every other day 2 weeks ago had stories that were picked up from our publicist Tim Bajorski for the event. So I think Alex might have forwarded some of those on to you, but we were very pleased with all the coverage. The attendance was down about 30 or 40%, I'd say, from our normal Spirit of Mass days, but to be expected, moving it from a Sunday to a Monday, where the weekend would have been nice at the middle of the afternoon. But for all in all, we were very pleased, and the handle was very good. We handled very good off-site, and the handle on track was down a little bit, but not as much as I expected.
Excellent. Questions for Dr. Lightbound?
Was one of them a record-breaking race? My memory is one of the 2.
Yes, the trotter for his age and sex. Yes, yeah. No, it wasn't the overall track record, but for that particular age and sex, yes. Yep.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. It was really well done.
I bet. Commissioner O'Brien, it's a lot of fun to go to. And Commissioner Hill, did you enjoy it?
Oh, I had a great time. Me and Eileen, we think we now know another route we can look at how to pick winners, but we're not going to say it. We're not going to say it in public in case we're right.
That's
It was a great day and a great turnout by the fans.
It's a special race, and the change in time limited Commissioner Skinner and I from going, but I must say that I think we all know we prioritize the health and safety of the horses, all of the people who are involved with the racing, and of course our own team, and you, Steve, and the PPC team were there. So we are all glad that you got through that heat wave nicely and safely.
Thank you, Commissioner.
And okay, so that's Alex, anything that you want to add to Steve's report?
He was very thorough.
Okay, excellent. All right, then we've got a request.
Yep, so our request today is for promo fund consideration by Plainridge for their social media campaign. And As you know, Steve is on today, and he also has the owner of 3805 Productions, Derek Cameron, on. And now I'll turn it over to Chad Bork to present the issue.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Chair.
So as Alex mentioned, Plain Ridge Park Casino has submitted another request for consideration of the Harness Horse Promotional Trust. And just to recap, each month funds are deposited into the trust that our licensees can use to engage customers to increase attendance, handle. Distributions are made upon the commission's approval of the licensee's request for consideration, followed by a request for reimbursement. This particular request is in the amount of $15,000. It will be used to promote the summer handicapping series that was approved on the July 12th commission meeting. I did review the request. All the documentation is included in your packet. I also thoroughly looked over the marketing material that 3805 Production sent in, and all the statutory requirements were met, and therefore I do consider this to be in good order and can recommend approval. So with that, I can open it back up to Steve if he wants to add a little color or answer some questions.
Thanks, Chad. I think we touched on it at the meeting for the handicapping contest. And if you don't mind me stepping back to the handicapping contest, we did have the first leg this past Saturday. And, Commissioner Hill asked about handicapping, and we went into some discussions. Handicapping is kind of a macho thing amongst men. It's kind of like sports betting. They want to be able to pick the winner. They want to outduel the other guy and everything. So we had one woman that entered the contest, and she won. So, so it was almost 100 entries, and the one sole woman won. Her husband entered also. On her $2 hypothetical bets for 10 races, which was $20. If those were real bets, her total for the day was 140 some odd dollars. She had 2 long shots. Her husband, who plays the horses and handicaps all the time, he won his hypothetical bets. He would have lost $14. So so it was pretty good. She outdid the second place finisher by $50. So she won pretty big, pretty handily by a wide margin, or a lot of lengths, as we would say in racing. So that was a lot of fun, and the team did a great job. We had a leaderboard on some of the TVs that showed, as the day went on, who was moving to the top, who was moving down. The customers really enjoyed it. I think we can get more out of it. I know that all the guys that were in want to come back and upset the woman now in this next go around. We'd love to have more women participants, but I don't think the guys would want many more the way it went. And I'm sure that she did a lot of handicapping by name, because I know that that's how a lot of handicappers do it. And she really is, I guess they come a lot. He comes to the racing side and she goes to the casino side, but it was a good story, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. The staff did a great job keeping the communication going, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of excitement. Our handle for the day on all the simulcasting was up about 25%, and that usually goes along with when we do events like this. So we were really pleased. We're really happy. And then to try and take it to the next level, as I mentioned on the last meeting, we had some meetings with a company called Foundry, which Derek Cameron is a part of, as well as his production company. He met with our marketing department and had some suggestions about how to serve up some production, some videos, some how-to videos, how to handicap, which Commissioner Hill might find interesting. And so if Derek can get on, I'd like for him to maybe say a few words about what he saw when he looked at racing for the first time, and what opportunities he thinks that racing presents. I'm not sure if he has to be unmuted or.
I don't know which phone number he is, but he could try *6 to unmute, unless we can unmute him.
He's the 617 area code number there.
I'll unmute him.
The 617 number. So if you try pressing *6, you may be able to unmute yourself. Sometimes it works on the third try. Rats. No, *6 has not been as reliable of an unmuter as I have wished over the last couple of years. I really think about looking into that. The other thing I could try is, am I the host? Let me see if.
I'm trying to see if it's something I can do, but it looks like I can only ask to unmute. I can't physically mute or unmute myself.
That's what, yeah, that's what it says for me too. And then let me just look, if I go to his ask to unmute. What about putting in waiting room? So would that put him in waiting room that we could bring him forward? No.
No, it would,
That's because that's video. Crystal laughs. I wonder if they have.
it looks like he left.
617, he left.
Yep, we must have scared him off.
Oh,
Sorry.
Steve. You know, if you don't get
videos.
scared,
Maybe he's going to try and call back in. But I can kind of pick up if he calls back in, we could try him again. I could kind of pick up.
*6 isn't as scary as tornadoes and heat waves, right?
Right.
Here he is again. Up, here he is.
There
we go.
Good.
I had to leave to come back in. I've been mashing *6 for the last couple of minutes.
That's what I thought you were probably doing. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me here today. So to shed a little light on what we were envisioning for this project is we've been talking with Plainridge for the last few months, and they were looking to bring some more people to the on-site track and also build up the online presence through the mobile gaming app as well. So one of the things that we discovered when we were doing our due diligence is the amount of knowledge that was about harness racing and then Plainridge was next to nothing. So we basically had a wide open ocean in which to devise a plan here. So one of the ways we're looking at approaching it is really from more of an educational perspective and doing a lot of the behind the scenes video capture of talking to the riders, talking to the trainers, getting a feel for what harness racing is all about, talking to the people that are actually betting and understanding what they're looking for and how they're handicapping races and how they're strategizing what they're looking at. And even quite frankly, looking at the racing card and just breaking that down into something that looks resembling English and really just breaking it into its component parts so people can understand that. So what we're looking to do is just capturing that on video, doing some interviews with all the aforementioned people, and then pushing this out through the Plainridge social media accounts, their Instagram channel, their YouTube channel. I don't know if they have a TikTok feed, but pushing it out through the social media channels and their Facebook channel too, and then opening it up to a much wider audience and trying to capture the people that Steve was just talking about that were handicapping based on horse's name. Well, what are some other things that people might be able to look at to give them a little bit more of an edge when they're looking to place those bets, or even in the handicapping series, the virtual bets, and just to make it a little bit more interesting and fun. I've been to a couple of the Triple Crown races back in the over the years, and I know next to nothing about horse racing. I absolutely love going there though and participating in it. So we just want to be able to bring some of that action from Plainridge down to a level where people that don't understand it can get a little bit of a glimpse behind the curtain to understand what it is that makes this a unique sport and why they should be interested in that. I'll pause there and let everyone gather their thoughts.
So that basically our conversations with Matt and his partner have pretty much centered around awareness and bringing people like people that don't understand the jargon, making it a lot more simpler for them, and trying to create the interest through that realm, rather than, hey, I know nothing about it, so I'm not even going to try. So that was one of the things that we keyed on when we talked to Matt and his team. But we had good conversations with them. We think that they got a good grasp of racing right off the bat, what we needed, and I'd love to we'd love to bring them on and give it a try.
So, Steve, this is Commissioner O'Brien. I like the idea of it. My question, I think I raised this the last time, is can you touch on how much of the social media push is also going to incorporate responsible gaming, educating people, maybe getting them interested, but then also making sure we have that component in whatever the ad campaign is going to be?
Yes, we took that into consideration when from the last meeting. All of the materials for the handicapping contest were branded with the Game Sense and the responsible gaming hotline and all the stuff that we have for that, and we'll make sure Matt and his team are aware of it as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Really good point, Commissioner O'Brien and Mr. Cameron. That's an exciting opportunity too for you in your contract. And I know, Alex, and Steve, that Mark Vanderlinden is available always for the two of you if you want to use some creativity. Responsible is fun gambling, right? So, thanks.
Of course.
Yeah. Excellent. Other questions for either Mr. Cameron or Mr. O'Toole or Chad? Commissioner Hill, all set?
All set.
Commissioner Skinner, do you have questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, and Commissioner O'Brien, you're all set? Okay, and so you need from us, Chad, a vote to approve, and it's a $15,000 contract.
Correct.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to move
Thank you.
if you're ready for a motion.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Madam Chair, I move that the commission approve the expenditure of $15,000 from the Harness Horse Promotional Trust Fund in accordance with Chapter 128A, Section 5G, for the purposes described in the materials in the commissioner's packet and as discussed here today.
Second.
Thanks. Any questions or edits on that motion? All right, great. Thank you, Dr. Lightbound, Chad, Mr. O'Toole, Mr. Cameron, Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
and I vote yes. Good.
Thank you,
You've got
Commissioner.
social media on your side now, Steve. That's great. We're moving
Thank you.
right ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm sure it won't be the
Excellent.
first
I'm
time.
really
I'm sure it won't be the last time we come back with something like this. I hope.
Thank you very much.
We love
thank
the
you
idea
very
of
much.
making it. Yeah, Mr. Cameron, thank you. We look forward to the accessibility. I think it was Commissioner Hill that asked the question, but we've all been asking it to ourselves. So we're looking forward to learning a lot through your promotions.
Thank
That
you.
makes me as well, because I'm a novice to harness racing, so I'm coming at it from fresh eyes. So I'm going to go about the whole experience this way. So thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Stay cool.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Alex. Okay, then we're moving on to legal division and Todd. Good afternoon, Counselor.
Good afternoon. We have three separate items for your review. The first two, Carrie will walk you through.
Good afternoon, Carrie.
Hi, good afternoon, Madam Chair and Commissioners. So the first two regulations in your packet, you have two draft regulations for discussion today. These are 205 CMR 102 and 205 CMR 115.04. They're listed on the agenda as 4A and B, but I'll give you a bit of background on them collectively, and then we can get into the details a little bit. So I'm sure you recall that last month you voted to begin the promulgation process to rescind 205 CMR 103, which is the Commission's regulation related to confidentiality of records and certain public records law issues. So I took a look at the Commission's regulations, the rest of the regulations, just to make sure that there weren't any cross references that we would need to eliminate, and did turn up these two regulations. So these proposals today are really companion changes to the elimination of 205 CMR 103. So the first, section 102, this is the definitions section that covers the entirety of 205 CMR. You'll see that the red line in your packet looks a bit busy, but almost everything is grammatical cleanup type changes, but I will just draw your attention to the more substantive changes that we'd be making here that we're proposing. So we are proposing deleting the definitions of a few terms that are only used in section 103. They're not used anywhere else within the regulations. So once that section is gone, we wouldn't need these definitions anymore. Those terms are confidential information, confidentiality claimant, secretary, and security protocols. I'll just note that secretary means the secretary of the commission, and of course that role would still exist, it just wouldn't be necessary to include a definition of that in the regulations. And then another definition that we would be proposing to delete is the definition of record, and this would just be to eliminate any possible duplication or inconsistency with the definition of public record within the public records law. I can pull those up on the screen if anyone wants to take a closer look, or I can move on to the explanation of 115, however you'd like me to do that.
I'm playing a little bit of catch up here.
Okay.
So for me personally, I'd love it if we could just have it on the screen real quick.
Of course.
Thanks.
Okay, so here's 102. This is the full definition section.
Yeah.
And you'll see most of this, the small redlining is really just cleanup, grammatical changes and grammatical consistency changes. So I will scroll down to the actual elimination of some definitions. So these two here, confidential information and confidentiality claimant, these terms are only used in section 103. They're not used anywhere else within the Commission's regulations.
And they're defined in 103?
Well, 103 won't exist anymore.
Oh, that's right. So sorry.
Yeah.
It's like
Nope.
I'm not good at remembering the numbers. Okay.
Nope, no
thank
problem.
you. So they're not needed. They're not used anywhere else. I understood. I couldn't find
Exactly.
that. Thank you so much.
Yep, so those two, and then, whoops. Record, just want to make sure that we're not, reinventing the wheel and creating any inconsistency issues with creating a new definition of record.
So can I ask this question because I didn't pick up on that when I looked at this the other night. Does that mean at one point somebody felt that we needed a definition of record in 103? Does it need to be?
I'm not sure what other sections it might be included in, the word record. It does seem that when the regulations were initially promulgated, that initial batch of, I think, 30 or so sections, someone felt that this definition was needed. We can certainly
but anything, but you haven't, but a search of the word record only kind of pointed to public records.
I didn't run a full search of the word record. I can, but I also think the term is covered in the public records law.
Yeah, I understand now. I couldn't find it when you're talking. Okay. It's not. If it became a point of confusion, we could go back to it, no problem.
Of course. Yep.
Thanks. Yep.
And
Thanks.
then
That was
the
the
other,
only part I needed. I don't know if anybody else wants
Oh,
to
okay.
see. Would people like to have her continue to scroll through? Is this helpful?
these
Yeah,
are just the
Brad
last
says
two.
yes.
Okay, might as well just mention, these are just the last two. Secretary means the secretary of the commission. There's nothing wrong with that definition. It's just not a term that's used anywhere else within the regulations other than in 103. And the same for security protocols. That's only used in 103, and that section wouldn't exist anymore.
Harry?
Yes.
For the term secretary, I understand it's not used anywhere else in the regulations, but the term clerk is, and so do you think we need to add a definition of clerk? I know this is kind of last minute, but.
We can even put that in when we come back for final vote and approval, if it makes sense to do it that way.
What's the context of clerk?
Just scrolling up.
I've seen it in the context of receiving notices from applicants or petitioners, things like that.
And do we define clerk in terms of, is that a position that gets decided on an ad hoc basis? Who the clerk of a adjudicatory hearing is, or something like that? Is that, when do we use clerk?
Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in on that one, if I may. The term clerk is definitely used in section 101 as you're describing in the context of the adjudicatory proceedings. The legal staff typically just serves as the clerk. The only real function is to receive the filings and make sure the hearing officer and the parties see them, and then to communicate with the commission in the event that there's an appeal. There are no substantive decisions really made by the clerk, but that it's really just an administrative function. That's, I think, the only context the clerk appears in the regulations that I'm aware of.
Just something to consider. I'm asking to be considered, where we have CFAO defined in the regs, we have CEO and other job positions.
All right, so I'll stop share on this one for now. And just give me 1 second. All right, so the other regulation, I'll just run through this and then we can come back, assuming everyone's comfortable for votes. But the other one is 205 CMR 115.04. I will pull that up for you now so you can all see what I'm looking at. So this regulation relates to phase 1 and new qualifier proceedings by the commission. I'll just sort of preface this also by saying I know that this regulation may come back for further discussion in terms of the substantive nature of the regulation. But for today, for the companion change to 103, we'd just be proposing one small change here because it includes an actual cite to 103.02 1 through 5. 103.02 1 through 5 is a section of 103 that lays out various types of information that are exempt from disclosure. So I'm just proposing replacing that with Chapter 4, Section 726, which is the exemptions to the public records law. Do you have any questions on that, or I can show you the 103 section?
I need just a little bit of time to think about it. Just
sure.
Thanks. Anybody have any questions for Carrie on this? Okay, Eileen's all set. I can see Brad, but I can't see Nikisha. Are you all set, Nikisha?
I'm all set.
Okay, I'm all set too. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so if you're comfortable with these changes, we'd be looking for a vote on each to begin the promulgation process, and ultimately a vote today, just so you sort of see where we're going with all of this, will allow us to pair all three of these together for the rescission as well as these two changes for the public hearing and final vote in September. We'll be able to bundle them all together.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I'm happy to move if you're ready.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, are there any other questions? I'm seeing Eileen maybe studying. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Skinner, please.
Is it okay if I do them together? I think so, right? I move that the commission approve the small business impact statement and the amendments to 205 CMR 102.02 and 205 CMR 115.04 as reflected in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today. And further, that staff be authorized to take the steps necessary to file the required documentation with the Secretary of the Commonwealth and proceed with the regulation promulgation process.
Second.
Any further questions or edits? Okay, and thank you for walking us through that helpful exercise. I know, at least for me. Thank you. Okay, all set. All right, Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
I vote yes, 4-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if we're all set, thank you, Carrie, for that work, making great progress. Then we move on to you, Todd, correct, on the next item?
Yes,
So I
thank
know-
you, Madam Chair. Long, one more before we get over to you. So this is section 115.01, subsection 4 that we have before you today. This is the section of the regulations that prescribes the specific information that all qualifiers and the gaming licensees themselves are duty bound to notify the IEB of upon their occurrence. As we often say, of course, suitability is ongoing. But though a determination is made by the commission at a particular point in time as to whether a person or entity is suitable, that review effectively continues on for as long as the individual or entity is affiliated with the gaming licensee. Of course, Chapter 23K says as much in a couple of places. I thought I would just mention them really quickly to help calibrate this. So first, in the declaration section, section 1, subsection 3, it says that gaming licensees shall be held to the highest standards of licensing and shall have a continuing duty to maintain their integrity and financial stability. And then it also says in section 13, subsection B, that an applicant, licensee, registrant, or any other person who shall be qualified under Chapter 23K shall have the continuing duty to provide any assistance or information required by the commission and to cooperate in any inquiry or investigation conducted by the commission. So there's a couple of places throughout 23K that reference the continuing duty of licensees and applicants to be cooperative and provide certain information. So in adopting subsection 4 of 115.01 that you have before you here today, the commission initially, I would submit to you, sought to identify specific pieces of information that it was interested in receiving updates on. It did that by laying out what I believe are 14 categories of information that the qualifier and licensee is responsible for notifying the IEB of. This regulation, though, was adopted a number of years ago. So it seems that today is a good time to ensure that it still captures all of the information that you as a commission find meaningful, as well as for us to look at the mechanics of providing those notifications themselves. And you'll recall that the commission just recently referenced this section as a condition to a suitability decision that it made as part of a recent hearing. So this section does come up with some frequency. For today, in the commissioner's packet, you'll see that there are no specific amendments being proposed at the moment. This was intended to simply be an introductory review of the section so that the commission can make some determinations as to whether any amendments are warranted or clarifications would be helpful. With that being said, there are a few areas that I'll draw your attention to and we can walk through. You'll see Heather Hall has joined us for this discussion as well and can add some color and insight from the IEB's perspective as to the use of this section and any particular amendments that might be helpful as well. So with all that, if I may, I thought maybe we could just walk through section 115, unless there are any questions or comments before we jump right in. Okay. So I thought it might be helpful just to start by, I don't know if you all, well, it's in the packet. So the actual draft of the regulation is in the packet. There are a few sections that are highlighted, and those are the ones I thought we would hit specifically. But of course, if there are any questions on any of the other sections, we can go through those as well. So a good place to start is the introductory language, just to help set the stage. This is again subsection 4, continuing duty. And it says that once issued a positive determination of suitability, the gaming licensee and all qualifiers shall have a continuing duty to maintain suitability in accordance with the sections above. So I think it's important just to note from the outset that this section applies not just to the gaming licensee, but to all qualifiers who are related to the gaming licensee. And then it says that the gaming licensee and each qualifier shall have a continuing duty to notify and update the IEB in writing within 10 days of the occurrence, unless an alternative filing time is authorized by the executive director, or where applicable, gaining knowledge of the following. So then the reg goes into the list of things, and we'll get into those in a moment. But before we do that, I just wanted to pause and point out the fact that the regulation gives the qualifiers and licensees 10 days essentially to notify the IEB of any of these items. And then it authorizes the executive director to essentially grant more time to that. So the first issue for consideration before the commission is whether that 10-day period is the right time frame, and whether the executive director is the right person to be granting essentially a variance from that. I'd put on the table the idea of perhaps adjusting that to the 10-day period to something like as soon as practicable, and in no event later than 10 days, something of that sort, just to at least signal the idea that the commission is interested in receiving these pieces of information as soon as possible. And secondly, given the construct of the agency and the information being directed to the IEB, it might also make sense to consider granting the director of the IEB instead of the executive director, or perhaps their designee, the ability to grant an extension of that time. So those are just kind of two ideas that I wanted to mention before we dive in to the substance. And you don't necessarily need to decide that right this moment, but those are just two ideas for consideration as we move forward. If we're okay with that, we can kind of move into some of the more specific sections. I think the first A through D are fairly self-explanatory, and I didn't have any particular comments or observations about those. But as we move into E, the one thing I wanted to mention before I get into the exact language is just the idea of including specific language relative to civil proceedings. At the moment, most of this language revolves around criminal proceedings or other complaints that might be pursued by either a gaming regulator or another government agency, but it doesn't clearly necessarily cover civil proceedings that may be pursued by just a private citizen or other individual. So we may consider adding some language in there to clarify that point. And that would come up in the context perhaps in E, where it talks about information that the licensee or qualifier is or should reasonably be aware of, involving conduct that, if substantiated, could reasonably lead to the potential revocation or suspension of the license or imposition of a fine. So then we get into F, where it talks about conduct involved that, if substantiated, could reasonably lead to potential criminal charges, including but not limited to allegations of theft or embezzlement. So these are all things that might lend themselves to a clarification that it would also include any civil proceedings that were filed against a licensee or a qualifier. The other thing that I wanted to mention as it pertains to paragraphs E, F, and G, and this came up.
You know what, Todd, I'm going to just pause here because I just noted to Crystal that my internet is unstable, so I'm hearing a lot of choppiness. And this is hard. I've already had a little bit of hard time following and feel a little bit disruptive. Karen has indicated she's also having some problems, and Nikisha is. Of course, the three of us are, out of state here for a seminar in Las Vegas. So Crystal had the idea that we try to put it on our personal hotspots to maybe engage it better. But does that mean, can we do that fluidly? I don't want to disrupt this whole meeting, but three of us.
If you engage your hotspot now and then change the Wi-Fi, hopefully it wouldn't disconnect you, but it should. I just tried it. It should seamlessly move you
You
over.
did? Okay, I'm willing to take that risk.
As long as your cell phone service is stronger than your Wi-Fi, it should help with the meeting. The other option is less than ideal, but on your phones, you do have HD meeting as well, and you could call in directly from that, which you can still video on, but that will use your cell service as opposed to the Wi-Fi as well. So those are two options.
It really has been very, very, very consistent, or when it's choppy, it's kind of every other word. So that's why I had to actually ask Carrie to back up a little bit, and I apologize for that. Why don't we just, I don't want to disrupt your presentation too much, but if we could just try maybe the hotspot and see if that works. Karen, I don't know, Nikisha, if you're able to do that. That's a solution.
So what is it? I'm just looking on my phone.
Do you have a personal hotspot? If you go to settings, have you ever done that with that? Use your phone?
I haven't done it on this phone. And I think I have an older phone,
I was going to say, I don't know if a hotspot is set up on the work phones, but the HD meeting is. So
The
that's
hotspot is not set up on the work phone.
No, I'm using my own personal, which I've done in the past successfully. All right.
And then you just have to make sure that your computer down by the arrow next to the weather, you'll see the little internet logo. You have to just make sure that's connected to your hotspot as opposed to your Wi-Fi, and that should just move you over.
I'm actually wondering, given the length and the level of discussion we're probably going to want to have on this, whether it's better to call time on this,
suspend
move
the
on to the
discussion.
last item and just put this on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so funny, Nikki, you've gone sideways on my screen.
I think that means she's using her phone.
She's got all sorts of tricks I've never seen.
Yeah, you can note that we all have the same artwork in our rooms. I actually
was
did
to say that you were all
successfully-
diagonal at one point. It was pretty funny on my view.
That's very funny.
Now that Todd stopped talking, everyone sounds fine. So maybe it's Todd.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you,
So I am
do-
using my personal hotspot and it's much better, but I
Yeah,
know
mine
others don't
is-
have the same convenience. So.
yeah, my personal hotspot is working better as well. So just a note to self, but I do think, Eileen, we did this last time, Todd.
I know.
And this goes back to why I think you and I had a discussion. This is one of those situations where we probably could benefit from either a briefing in advance, but I would prefer to the extent it doesn't reveal, I think anything you're saying to us is always kind of a privileged communication that becomes not privileged because it's in the public. But this is straight legal analysis, and I think we'd benefit from a memorandum maybe to set the stage for us a little bit, because it is hard to follow.
Maybe a silent briefing that kind of walks us all through with something like that before we
Yeah,
Both feet.
although I think we'd be doing exactly what we're doing now, and it is hard to follow.
Yeah.
It's a really important conversation. This is the continuing duty, and to make sure, because just now I was having a really hard time following, and I couldn't tell if it was me, the choppiness, or just a general complexity. So Commissioner Skinner and Commissioner Hill, what are you thinking?
If you're asking if we should put this off for another meeting, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's a second time, which is too bad. Commissioner Skinner, what are you thinking?
Same, I think it's the right call, given that we have 9 scheduled minutes left in this meeting.
Right.
Right. And it's really an important conversation. Todd, I'm sorry to do this. Last time it was lengthiness. This time it's just because I think I realized it does take a little bit more setup. So with that said, Todd, you please excuse us, and we'll move on then to item number 5 with Long, and be able to finish that up, and then give Todd's presentation, again, the right degree of attention in advance. I think if we get a memo and we can read it in advance of our meeting, I think we'll be really good, just to give us an outline. And to Todd, to be fair to Todd, it was a busy last couple of days as we navigated horse racing issues, et cetera. So thank you. Turning to Long then, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon.
And you did a really nice job at the conference this past week.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So today I'm actually providing an update on the ad hoc sports wagering report. So in 2011, the Expanded Gaming Act, Mass General Law, Chapter 23K, Section 71, directs the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, with advice from the Gaming Policy Advisory Committee, to develop an annual research agenda to understand the social and economic effects of expanding gaming in the state. Including the fiscal year 2022, MGC Annual Research Agenda is an ad hoc report to examine the potential impacts of sports wagering in Massachusetts. This report, being created by Dr. Rachel Boberg and Sigma team, is titled Legalized Sports Betting in the United States and Potential Impacts in Massachusetts. Specifically, this study examines the current status of legalized sports betting in the United States, including an assessment of the various legislative and operational models adopted, revenues generated, economic and social outcomes identified to date, and sports betting behaviors observed in states and international jurisdiction where this activity has been legalized. The report is currently in draft form as it continues through the MGC's rigorous external review process. This process typically includes multiple rounds of critical feedback to the research team by multidisciplinary research peers. Given the length of time the review process can take and the timeliness of the issue, leadership at the MGC felt it was important to provide an advanced draft of the report as a resource to the Legislative Conference Committee, charged with reconciling the House and Senate sports wagering bills. An advanced draft copy has also been provided to commissioners through the commission, though the commissioner has not taken any position with regard to the findings or recommendations. We anticipate the report will be publicly released when it is finalized in late August or early September.
Thank you. Karen, do you want to add anything? I know Long, you and Mark decided too that this was a really important step to make sure to get it to the legislature as they continue to contemplate whether or not sports wagering will be legalized. Paper was submitted, I guess, near the end of the month, and of course there is the review process. So at the end of June, so, or maybe a little bit even later. So the timeliness, as Long points out, is really critical. Karen, can you just describe the steps that were taken and what went to? Oh, you're on mute. I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to get used to this. I did get on the hotspot. So we have communicated with the members of the conference committee and provided them an advance copy in draft form, so they would have the information and they would be able to utilize that. And we've also indicated our team is available for any questions or anything that they would need with respect to this. So, I want to commend the team for getting this done and making sure that this got over to the legislature while they're working on this right now.
Excellent. Okay, and commissioners, you each received your copy. Okay. Good work, Long. And again, thank you for last week. There was the National Problem Gambling Council that was in town. It was a big conference. About 600 people or so. Long spoke, and Long was one of the members of the organizing team. So thank you for that service. Really important.
Thank you, Commissioner. It was great. You also were on the panel. Great panel.
Well, Long got a nice shout out, and so did Massachusetts in the legislature for its being so ahead on responsible gaming. And also there was attention given to the paper on, it was on the sports wagering advertising. So all good work, all work that Massachusetts can be really proud of and the commission can be proud of. So, and especially Mark's team. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else, commissioners, for other business or questions that maybe Long went off, but any questions for Long on his report? Okay. Any other business then, commissioners? Karen? Karen is coming just off a flight and sort of
I'm a little trying to get my head.
I know, I could tell, and I'm like, you can really video off if you'd like.
Yeah, thank you.
But
It's
no,
a 5 a.m. start.
If you have anything else, you joined, I think, we didn't really have an update, as you know, but I don't know if you wanted to provide anything that's happened. Any further
Nothing,
update?
right?
You're all set. Okay. All right, then sounds like we could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Oh, second.
Okay, any questions on that? Team, you're all set. Thank you. Thank you everyone for your good work. It was two meetings checked off today, really important ones. Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
And I vote yes. Thank you, everyone.